Bonjour mes amis, et bienvenue en Pendu dans la Lune. Hello friends and welcome. If this is your first time here, truly welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use Tarot de Marseille to answer a question that flows from my larger Rider-Waite-Smith spread of the week. So yes, I do a large Rider-Waite-Smith style reading with oracle cards once a week, and now I've started to pull a question that I believe flows naturally from that spread and answer that new question with 3 Tarot de Marseille cards. And I'm using my Jean Dodal deck from Flornoy, and if you're interested in this deck, I'll put a link below for the site so you can go purchase or at least check it out if you're interested. I don't get any payment from that site, just for your convenience. I'll also put a link to a new Kickstarter. Well, it's coming on to being an old Kickstarter now, for a newly redrawn Dodal deck. It's done by Artisan Tarot. When this video goes up, there should still be a couple of days left to that campaign, so I suggest going over and grabbing one of those decks. It's going to be a smaller deck in size, and it has a little bit more of a cleaned up look to it than the Flornoy. So, friends, you've got the preamble all listened to, and the question that I pulled from this last week's Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot and Oracle spread, which I'll put a card to if you want to go check that out first. That video was about balancing aspects of our lives, particularly balancing the more civilized and less civilized aspects of ourselves. I think most of us have a tendency towards one side or the other, to be more structured, more routine, or to be more spontaneous, more wild. But balance is important for all of us. I think we all would agree on that. And this week's Tarot and Oracle spread delved into that idea. And from that spread, I pulled this question. When deciding to balance our lives, be it in this between wild and tamed, or structured and less structured, how do we know when we are making the decision that is best for us? Let me explain this question a little bit. When we decide, for example, that I need to be more spontaneous or I need to be more structured, some discernment is called for. We don't want to rashly run off on a wild adventure that is not necessarily going to suit our particular personalities, lifestyles, our personal tastes or interests. Nor do we want to suddenly decide that we're going to become a CPA if we've not had such a structured life, if that kind of activity doesn't suit our personalities. Now, we want to be discerning when we choose how we're going to balance our lives. So the question is, how do we know when we're making the best choice when moving towards greater balance in our lives? How do we know if we're making the discerning choice? So I will show you the question again, and I will show you the cards that appeared answering that question. Take a look. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's pretty cold in my office here today, so please be aware. That's what's going on with my hands here and a little bit of tension in my body. It's a little bit cold. So we've got 3 cards. The 7 of Cups, the 4 of Bâtons, and the World card, Le Monde. And when these cards came out, initially, I was a little bit startled particularly at the Four of Bâtons, the Four of Wands, in more common parlance. This Four of Wands to me is a very structured, very routine kind of card, and I'm looking for balance between the wild and the routine, not just focusing on the routine, right? So, I was a little bit surprised at that being the center of the spread. But, reflecting on what I saw a little bit more deeply, I think I've got a way into this spread of 3 cards. Yes, even 3 cards sometimes need a way to penetrate them. And so the first indication for me was the World card at the end, looking back towards the other 2 cards. And so I think we should start with the Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups, creating joy, compassion and empathy. For me, the Seven of Cups is also a humanitarian card. It's love brought into the community. Yeah, for me, the sevens are bringing something out into the community or out into the world. It's love in action in the world. You see the one central cup surrounded by 3 cups on top and 3 cups on the bottom, and some very healthy looking plant life growing around it. Yeah, that's the growth of love to me. It's also generosity without advertising it. It's the card of connecting to universal love without rejecting daily life. And there is a key right there. Yeah? Connecting to universal love without rejecting daily life. And here is where we begin to understand how we can feel for the path that we are taking when choosing to balance out one side or the other. Yeah? Love is going to be the key. Rather than a perhaps misguided conception of what the people who are fun do, or the people who are structured do. You've seen movies, right, where the very prim or very structured person decides to go wild, and they think, what do wild people do? And they try and do that, and they fall flat on their faces. On the other hand, we've also seen movies where the wild party person decides that they're going to knuckle down and become a CPA, a certified public accountant, and they fall on their faces because that's not their path. That's not their way of balancing. They're following some image that they think is the appropriate counterbalance to their way of living. Here we see love is going to be what is going to inform our discernment. Yeah? Love is going to be the key. So we've got the Seven of Cups that is going to balance out our love for whichever end of the spectrum we tend to favor. Be it the routine end, people love routines. I love routines. Or the wild, playful, experimental, spontaneous side. So, for example, if we're a routine person, when we discern what new, spontaneous, wild act we want to do, we don't want to select something off of a Caribbean cruise line pamphlet that doesn't really match us, but we think, oh, that's what all the party people do. Instead, what we want to do is follow our hearts, look at it. Maybe that is what spurs love in you. And if it is, that's great. That's the choice. But love is going to be what tells us that we're moving in the right direction. On the other hand, if we're the party people and we decide that we're going to get some structure in our lives, we follow our love. We follow that feeling of love for what structure sparks that loving feeling with us. And maybe it would be volunteering our time in some way, helping people. And maybe that could be the spontaneous act as well, following our love and helping people. Yeah, bringing love out into the community. Not for praise, not for appreciation, but to express one side or the other of our nature. And then we move into that Four of Wands card, which was a little bit troublesome for me because, for me, I'm more on the Four of Wands side anyways. That's not going to be balancing for me. However, Four of Wands could be balancing for you. I don't know, is it? Would that Four of Wands structure be balancing for you? The Seven of Cups is a card of routine to Seven of Cups. The Four of Wands is a card of routine for me. It's a card of steadiness and perseverance and developing habits. And that could be an answer for the person who is more of the spontaneous liver, the one who does the thing that their gut instinct tells them to rather than following routine, beginning to develop a routine, not jumping whole hog into a super structured corporate life, but rather developing routines bit by bit. And that's what this Four of Wands could be indicating. Now, the development of habits, not the binding oneself, imprisoning oneself in a fully formed, habit-ridden life, but developing habits, testing out a habit, seeing if this one works. Yeah? If that one doesn't work, follow another one. It could be desires being made reality. Yeah? Our desires having come into full form. That could be a balancing side for the structured person, I suppose. Having a desire for the wild side that comes into form, into manifestation. It's also the card of assuming one's power. Yeah? Being able to tap into one's inner power and feeling secure with that. Now, this is the initial stage of feeling secure with it. It's not the 6, it's not the 8, it's the 4. But still, feeling secure with one's own power. And that could balance out one way or the other. Yeah? Feeling secure with our power could make us feel secure in doing something spontaneous, something madcap. Yeah? Feeling secure in the madcap or spontaneous situation will make it go much more smoothly and much more easy to incorporate into our lives. On the other hand, if we're feeling secure in our power and we enter into a routine, we know that we're not leaving our spontaneity behind, which we might consider our superpower. We're carrying that with us into our routine, into our new habits. So I think these two cards, as they interact, give us the key. Yeah? We want to follow our love into the world. Whichever direction we want to balance out. Yeah? If we want to balance out our routines, or if we want to balance out our id, our libido, our gut instincts, our fiery, passionate side. And we also want to feel our power, realized, manifest in our lives, as we move into either one of those directions. And we might want to consider balancing out our lives in a way that brings love out into the community as well. Now that could be a spontaneous act. Spontaneous acts of kindness. Have you heard of that? People who decide to suddenly pay for the person behind them, for example, or help somebody cross the street, without being intrusive. You don't want to grab somebody and drag them across the street when they feel like they can get across the street on their own, but we want to perhaps offer help spontaneously. Now that's a way to do that in a spontaneous way, or there could be a structured way of doing that as well. Now, bringing love out into the community, following our feeling of love for what we've decided to do, and feeling our power within that, I think probably is the answer to that question as we move into the world. Now the world card is a card of completion, fulfillment, success, which is what we want. We want to have that balance. That balance is our sense of completion, of fulfillment, of success. It's also the card of unity and wisdom. Those are the two words that were getting mixed up in my head. The card of unity and wisdom. Realization of our potential. Happy outcomes, which is what we're looking for. That balanced life. The world card, we have the figure in the center. We've got all aspects there in balance around them, as they're in that successful laurel. Perhaps holding their wands of power, also balanced. The one wand of routine, one wand of spontaneity. Could see it that way. And you'll notice in this deck, she's looking at a little title on the side which says, translated in English, made for foreigners. This deck was made for export, made for foreigners. So she's looking at those two cards on the side, but I'm sorry, they are looking towards those two cards on the side, but the figure in the center is also looking at that title on their right, our left, that we're giving attention to the new thing, the strange thing, the thing that is foreign to us. And giving attention to that and bringing that into our lives is what is going to bring us into balance. It's also the card of fullness. Now, when I was studying theology, the number 8 is the card of fullness. That's beyond completion, beyond perfection, into the fullness. It's the 7 plus 1. The 7 of completion, of unity, of coming to the end. The universe was created in 7 days. We got a 7-day week. That kind of structure of fullness, the structure of completion, plus the unity of the one, all added together to make the 8. So 8 is the beginning and the end. Now that kind of idea of fullness. The cosmic egg is also an image of the world card. The cosmic egg, the birth of everything, the starting point of everything, the embryo of everything. And that's what that feeling of balance and being whole, unity, the unity of all aspects of self, not ignoring one, whichever aspect that might be it the structured one or the spontaneous, wild, surprising one. Now, having all of that together, ultimate perfection, maximal expression. Because it's when we're balanced that we are fully expressing ourselves. When we are being our civilized, structured self, we're only expressing part of ourselves. We're not expressing the fullness of ourselves. And it's also the card of something new to be born, isn't it? This figure is here, coming to completion, coming into fullness, happy outcomes. But that's not the end of the journey, right? The world is the stepping into the liminal space which moves us into the next cycle and birthing something new. And when we are fully expressing ourselves, all aspects of ourselves, in a balanced way, then we are able to birth something new, birth a new life, which is what living an intentional life is all about. Think of being on a boat. Thinking of being on a rowboat. And we've got the paddle of civilization, and we've got the paddle of our animal natures, which is fully what? Recognized, not important, but worthy of being expressed. We have both of these natures, and both of them are absolutely worthy, and we want to be whole in all of them. But most of the time, we tend to favor one of those two oars. So we're here in the powerful river of intention, moving forward with the flow, and we got our paddles. A lot of times we tend to try to paddle upstream. We try to work too hard, and when we could just naturally flow with the current of intention, acting, yes, but flowing with the powerful force of intention. And then we can stick our oars in the water for fun, yeah? Oftentimes when we stick our oars, we think we're sticking our oars into the water, we're actually only sticking one in. For probably most of us here, we're probably favoring the civilization side. Now the structure, the routine, having practices, having a balanced life. Balanced in the sense of a civilized, balanced life. And we work this paddle to the extreme. And what happens if you're in a boat, in a river, and you're only using one of your two paddles? You start going in circles. Yeah? The river is still taking you forward, but we're going in circles and not going as smoothly or as easily as we might. Whereas if we use both of them in the water, we use our animal nature and our civilized selves in the water, our superego and our id in the water, then we're moving straight, we're moving forward. We're going with the flow of the current head on. And having access to that full force of intention with and behind us. Does that make sense? That's what the World card, I think, is reminding us. When we've got that balance, we have all of this available to us, and we're able to birth something new much more easily because we're there. We're there at the door. We're there at the liminal space. We're there in our triumphal laurel wreath, and we're ready to move on, and we're able to move on. And how do we discern? We discern by the feeling of love within us. If what we do, what we're choosing, makes us feel like we're spreading the love, we've chosen right. And also, if what we've decided to do makes us feel empowered, like the Four of Wands, our power manifest, then we've made the right choice. So we've got our cups and our fire, our water and our fire, our cups and our wands, our baton, together, balanced. And when we've got that, we move right into the world. And in that way, this spread makes perfect sense to me. Which it didn't the first moment I saw it. So friends, what do you think? Does it make sense to you? I'd love to hear in the comments below. What do you think? Like this video if you got something from it. And maybe your likes will help warm up my office. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. Hit the alarm bell to get notifications of when I upload videos. And share this on any platform you want to share it on. You're free to take this abroad. Like the World card looks at the title that says For Foreigners. You're free to share. And also comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.